Maria lived in a small quiet town with her baby boy Leo and her German shepherd Bruno. Bruno was not just any dog. He was large, strong, and very loyal. He had been with Maria since he was a puppy, and over the years he had grown into a protective and gentle companion. Maria trusted him completely, especially around her little boy. It was a warm afternoon. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, filling the living room with soft light. Leo was sitting on a soft blanket on the floor, his small hands playing with a set of colorful blocks. His laughter filled the room as he stacked the blocks and then knocked them down again. Bruno lay nearby, his head resting on his paws, eyes half closed but always alert. Maria was cleaning the kitchen when she noticed that she had run out of snacks for Leo. She glanced toward the living room, smiled, and called to Bruno. "Stay with Leo." "Bruno," she said. Bruno's tail gave a small wag, and he barked softly as if to say he understood. Feeling reassured, Maria stepped into the pantry to grab some snacks for her little boy. As soon as Maria left, Bruno raised his head. His ears twitched at every sound. He watched Leo closely. Leo, full of curiosity and energy, began crawling toward the corner of the living room where a small staircase led to the front door. Bruno immediately stood up and gently nudged Leo back onto the blanket with his nose. Leo laughed, thinking it was a new game, and clapped his hands. Bruno sat down beside him, keeping a close watch. Maria, still in the pantry, heard a faint noise from the living room. She paused, her heart beating a little faster. Bruno was growling softly, a low sound that made Maria worry. She quickly stepped back into the living room to see what was happening. To her surprise, Bruno was standing in front of Leo, his body tense, teeth slightly visible but not in anger. Through the window, Maria saw a stranger trying to open the front gate. The man moved slowly, looking around as if he did not want to be noticed. Maria froze for a moment, unsure what to do. Bruno barked loudly, a warning sound that echoed through the quiet street. The man started and looked around nervously. He realized he had been seen and ran away, leaving the gate swinging in the breeze. Maria ran to Leo and hugged him tightly, relief washing over her. "Bruno, you saved him," she whispered. Bruno wagged his tail, staying close to Leo, never leaving his side. Maria felt a mixture of pride and deep gratitude. After that day, Maria became more aware of Bruno's protective nature. She knew she could never underestimate his loyalty. She spent a few moments sitting on the floor with Leo, brushing his hair back and smiling at his laughter. Leo reached for Bruno, patting his soft fur. Bruno leaned gently into the baby's touch, understanding that Leo's curiosity was innocent and playful. Maria also realized that Leo and Bruno were forming a special bond. Every small movement of Leo was watched by Bruno, and every smile from Leo seemed to make Bruno wag his tail even more. Maria felt safe leaving them together, but she also learned not to take that safety for granted. Bruno was more than a pet. He was a guardian, a silent protector who watched over her son with love and care. Later in the evening, Maria sat by the window, watching the sky turn orange and pink as the sun set. Bruno lay next to the blanket, still alert, ears moving at every sound outside. Leo was sleeping peacefully, exhausted from the day's play. Maria felt a deep sense of peace. She knew that as long as Bruno was there, Leo would always be safe. That night, Maria thought about the small moments of trust she shared with Bruno. A few seconds could have been dangerous, but Bruno had been there, alert and ready. Maria smiled as she looked at her sleeping baby and her loyal dog, feeling a warmth in her heart she could not put into words. Bruno was not just a dog. He was part of their family, a hero in his own quiet way. The next morning, the sunlight poured into the living room again. Leo woke up with a small giggle, stretching his tiny arms and looking around. Bruno was already sitting beside him, his ears perked up and his eyes watching every movement of the little boy. Leo reached out his hands and Bruno leaned in, letting the baby touch his soft fur. It was a gentle moment, one that Maria cherished deeply. After breakfast, Maria decided to do some laundry. She placed Leo on the blanket in the living room, surrounded by his toys. Bruno lay down beside the blanket, his head resting near Leo's tiny feet. Maria watched them for a moment, smiling at the calm scene. "Stay close, Bruno," she said softly. Bruno barked once, almost like a promise that he would. Maria stepped into the laundry room, but soon, the sound of small laughter and soft squeaks reached her ears. She looked back and saw Leo crawling toward the hallway. Bruno immediately got up and moved to block the way. He nudged Leo gently with his nose, turning him back toward the blanket. Leo laughed and clapped his hands, thinking it was a fun game, unaware of the quiet alertness of his guardian. Outside, the wind blew lightly, moving the branches of the trees. Maria noticed a delivery man walking down the street. He had a package for the neighbors, but as he passed by, Bruno barked sharply. The man stopped, surprised by the loud warning, and quickly moved along. Maria realized that even a small sound could alert Bruno to any stranger nearby. As the morning passed, Maria decided to go into the garden to water the flowers. She placed Leo in a small playpen near the living room window so she could see him. Bruno lay nearby, sitting upright and scanning the house for any signs of danger. Leo reached for his favorite stuffed toy and began playing happily. Bruno watched carefully, shifting his position now and then to make sure Leo stayed safe. Maria smiled as she looked at the bond between them. Leo and Bruno had a connection that went beyond words. Bruno seemed to understand every movement, every laugh, and even every frown. Maria realized that Leo was learning to trust Bruno, and Bruno was learning to protect Leo in ways that were almost instinctive. Suddenly, a loud noise came from the backyard. Maria's heart jumped and she ran toward the window. Bruno, already alert, jumped to his feet and moved between the playpen and the backyard door. Leo looked at Bruno and laughed, pointing his tiny fingers. Bruno barked again, a protective warning to any intruder. Maria ran outside and saw that a neighbor's cat had climbed the fence and knocked over a small pot. There was no danger, but Bruno had reacted immediately, ready to protect Leo if needed. Maria picked up Leo and hugged him tightly. "Thank you, Bruno," she whispered, her eyes soft with gratitude. Bruno wagged his tail, calm again, returning to his position beside the playpen. Maria realized that moments like these built a sense of trust that could never be broken. Bruno was not just a dog. He was part of the family, a silent protector who always knew what to do. After a while, Maria took Leo out of the playpen and let him crawl on the soft grass in the garden. Bruno followed closely, his eyes never leaving the baby. Leo laughed and tried to grab the flowers, but Bruno gently nudged him away from the sharp stems. Maria watched them and felt a deep sense of peace. She knew that her little boy was growing up with a guardian who loved him as much as she did. As the afternoon turned to evening, Maria brought Leo back inside. She made a small snack while Bruno lay near the blanket, keeping watch. Leo clapped his hands and laughed at Bruno's tail wagging. Maria thought about the few seconds yesterday when Bruno had saved Leo from danger, and she realized that those moments built a lifetime of trust. Maria hugged Bruno and whispered, "You are my hero, Bruno." Bruno leaned into her touch, calm and gentle yet alert. He had a quiet strength that made Maria feel safe. She knew that no matter what happened, Leo would always have Bruno by his side. The bond between them was unbreakable, filled with love, care, and protection. That evening, the sky turned orange and pink as the sun began to set. Maria was finishing up some work in the kitchen when she noticed Leo playing quietly on his blanket in the living room. Bruno was already lying beside him, his large body relaxed but his eyes alert. Maria smiled, knowing that her loyal dog never left Leo alone for even a second. Suddenly, a sound came from the front gate. Bruno's ears twitched and he stood up immediately. His body was tense and his tail raised high. Leo looked at Bruno curiously, sensing that something unusual was happening. Maria froze for a moment, then hurried to the living room. Through the window, Maria saw a stranger trying to open the front gate. The man looked around nervously as if he did not want to be noticed. He bent slightly and touched the latch, but Bruno barked loudly, a sound that echoed through the quiet street. The man jumped in surprise, looking at the house with wide eyes. Bruno did not stop barking. He ran to the front door, growling softly but firmly. His strong presence made the stranger hesitate. Leo, sensing the tension, grabbed his stuffed toy and laughed nervously, not understanding the danger. Bruno stayed close, standing between Leo and the door, his gaze never leaving the stranger. Maria ran to the window, her heart beating fast. She called out, "Bruno, stop him." Bruno barked again and moved slightly forward, showing the stranger that he would not let anyone come closer. The man glanced around, clearly nervous, and decided to leave. He stepped back quickly and ran down the street, disappearing from sight. Maria's hands were shaking as she picked up Leo and held him close. "Thank you, Bruno," she whispered, tears forming in her eyes. Bruno wagged his tail softly, staying near Leo. Calm again now that the danger had gone, Maria felt a deep relief. She knew that without Bruno, the stranger might have come closer. After the incident, Maria decided to spend more time with Bruno and Leo together. She wanted to teach Leo how to respect Bruno and understand his protective nature. She encouraged Leo to pat Bruno gently and even practice calling him for help. Bruno responded happily, nudging Leo's tiny hand with his nose. Later that evening, Maria sat on the floor with Leo and Bruno. She looked at her baby's laughing face and Bruno's watchful eyes and felt a sense of gratitude she could not put into words. Bruno was more than a pet. He was a guardian, a friend and a family member who would do anything to protect them. As the days passed, Maria noticed that Bruno became even more careful. He followed Leo everywhere in the house, making sure he did not crawl into dangerous spots. Leo, in turn, learned to trust Bruno completely. When Bruno barked or moved closer, Leo would stop what he was doing and look at him, learning to understand the signals of safety and caution. One afternoon, Maria decided to test Bruno's alertness in a gentle way. She placed a small toy near the staircase and watched from a distance. Leo crawled toward it, but Bruno quickly moved to guide him back to the blanket. Leo laughed, thinking it was a game, and Maria realized how instinctive Bruno's protective behavior was. That night, Maria reflected on the events of the past few days. She realized how lucky she was to have Bruno. A dog could be just a pet, but Bruno was much more. He was brave, intelligent, and full of love for their family. Maria knew that Leo's early years were being shaped by Bruno's presence, teaching him about trust, loyalty, and care. Maria kissed Leo on the forehead and then hugged Bruno tightly. "You are my hero," she whispered. Bruno leaned into her embrace, calm and steady. He had shown that even in the smallest seconds he could protect and care for the ones he loved. Maria felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that her baby and her loyal dog shared a bond that could never be broken. The morning after the stranger incident, Maria felt a mixture of relief and pride. She looked at Bruno lying near Leo, his large head resting on his paws, watching the baby with alert eyes. Leo was busy stacking his colorful blocks, giggling every time he knocked them down. Maria smiled and thought about how much Bruno had grown into his role as Leo's protector. After breakfast, Maria decided to go outside and water the flowers in the garden. She set Leo on the blanket in the living room and told Bruno, "Stay close to him." Bruno barked softly and lay down beside the blanket. Leo immediately reached out for Bruno's fur and patted him gently. Bruno leaned into the touch, calm and patient. Maria stepped outside and began watering the flowers. She could hear the soft noises of Bruno moving around the blanket, watching Leo closely. She glanced back and saw that Leo was crawling toward a corner of the room. Bruno was already there, gently guiding him back to the blanket with his nose. Maria laughed quietly, amazed at how naturally Bruno took care of her baby. Suddenly, a small bird flew past the open window. Bruno's ears twitched and he barked once, not in alarm, but to make sure Leo noticed nothing dangerous. Leo clapped his hands and laughed, thinking it was a new kind of game. Maria smiled, realizing that Bruno was teaching Leo about safety even without words. Later in the afternoon, Maria's sister Sarah came to visit. She brought her little boy Max, who was about the same age as Leo. Maria felt a little nervous about having two babies in the house, but she trusted Bruno completely. Bruno sniffed Max carefully and then lay down beside Leo, his eyes scanning the room for any unusual movement. Max crawled toward Leo, and Leo reached out to touch him. Bruno stayed calm but alert, making sure that the two babies did not get too close to anything dangerous. Maria watched them with a smile. It amazed her how Bruno could stay calm and gentle while still protecting everyone around him. Sarah looked at Bruno and laughed softly. "I have never seen a dog like this," she said. "He is like a guardian angel." Maria nodded, feeling grateful. She knew that Bruno had saved Leo from danger before, and now he was teaching both boys about safety in a quiet, caring way. As the sun began to set, Maria prepared a small snack for the babies. Bruno sat patiently beside them, his large eyes following every movement. Leo and Max laughed and played together, sharing toys and giggling at each other. Bruno stayed close, moving just enough to make sure both babies were safe. Maria realized that her home was full of laughter, love, and a strong sense of security thanks to Bruno. Later that evening, Maria took Leo into her arms and thanked Bruno quietly. "You are always watching over him," she whispered. Bruno wagged his tail softly and leaned against Maria's legs. He had a calm strength that made her feel safe. Leo reached out and touched Bruno's head, giggling as Bruno nudged him gently. Maria thought about how quickly a few seconds could make a difference in a baby's life. Just yesterday, a stranger had come to the gate and Bruno had protected Leo without hesitation. Now Bruno's presence filled the home with peace and confidence. Maria knew that Leo would grow up learning trust, care, and friendship from Bruno. As the night fell, Maria tucked Leo into his small crib. Bruno lay down nearby, keeping a watchful eye over the baby. The moonlight shone through the window, creating soft shadows across the room. Maria felt a deep sense of relief and happiness. She knew that with Bruno by their side, Leo would always be safe, and her home would always be full of love. Before leaving the room, Maria hugged Bruno tightly. "You are more than a dog," she whispered. "You are part of our family." Bruno leaned into her, his warm body close to hers. Maria smiled, feeling that the bond between her baby and her loyal dog was one of the most precious things in the world. A few days later, Maria decided it was time to take Leo and Bruno on a small outing to the park near their home. The park was not far, but it was filled with children, birds, and other dogs. Maria wanted Leo to enjoy the outdoors while knowing that Bruno would keep him safe. She put Leo in a small stroller and attached a leash to Bruno. Bruno walked calmly beside them, occasionally looking at Maria to make sure everything was fine. Leo's eyes widened as he saw the green grass and the colorful flowers. He clapped his hands and laughed happily. Bruno wagged his tail, enjoying the walk and the fresh air. As they entered the park, other children ran around playing with balls and toys. Some dogs barked and chased each other, while birds flew above in the clear sky. Maria felt grateful for Bruno's calm nature. Unlike other dogs who might get distracted, Bruno stayed close to Leo, always alert and protective. Leo wanted to touch everything he saw. He reached out for the grass, trying to pull a small flower. Bruno nudged him gently, guiding him away from sharp branches and uneven paths. Maria smiled, seeing how Bruno quietly taught Leo about safety and care. Leo giggled and tried again, but Bruno was patient, making sure the baby did not get hurt. After walking for a while, Maria decided to sit on a bench and let Leo explore a small patch of grass near the stroller. She placed his toys on the ground and let him crawl toward them. Bruno sat down beside Leo, watching carefully. When another dog approached, Bruno stood up and gave a small warning bark. The other dog's owner quickly called it back, and Bruno relaxed again, returning to his calm position beside Leo. Maria watched the interaction and felt a sense of pride. Bruno was not only protecting Leo but also teaching him about boundaries and how to be safe around others. Leo laughed and clapped his hands, enjoying the play while still being under Bruno's watchful eyes. After some time, Maria decided to have a small picnic. She took out sandwiches and fruit, placing them on a blanket. Leo tried to reach for the food, but Bruno stayed close, making sure the baby did not grab anything that could be unsafe. Maria laughed and gave Leo small pieces of fruit. Bruno waited patiently for his treat, his eyes never leaving Leo. While they were eating, a small butterfly landed near Leo. Leo tried to touch it, giggling. Bruno sat closer, almost as if he wanted to protect the delicate moment. Maria noticed how careful Bruno was, understanding that Leo's world was full of new experiences and small dangers. Later, as the sun began to set, Maria decided to return home. She lifted Leo into the stroller and attached the leash to Bruno. Bruno walked calmly beside them, occasionally glancing at the park and other dogs. Maria felt a sense of peace knowing that Bruno would always be alert, even in busy and unfamiliar places. When they returned home, Maria let Leo crawl around the living room while she prepared dinner. Bruno lay nearby, keeping watch over every movement. Leo reached out for his toys, and Bruno nudged him gently when he moved too close to furniture edges. Maria realized that the bond between her baby and Bruno was growing stronger every day. Leo trusted Bruno completely, and Bruno loved Leo like he was his own little one to protect. As night fell, Maria tucked Leo into bed. Bruno lay down on the floor beside the crib, keeping a careful watch over the baby. Maria kissed both of them, feeling grateful for the safety and love in her home. She knew that with Bruno around, Leo could explore the world, learn new things, and always be protected. Maria whispered softly, "You are my brave friend, Bruno." Bruno wagged his tail slightly and rested his head near Leo's tiny feet. Maria smiled, knowing that the trust and bond between her baby and her loyal dog were something truly special. She felt certain that together, they could face any challenge, no matter how big or small. One sunny afternoon, Maria decided to take Leo and Bruno on a short walk to a small open field near their home. She wanted Leo to enjoy the fresh air and feel the soft grass under his hands, while Bruno could explore the area safely. Maria held Leo in her arms while Bruno walked closely beside them, his leash in her hand. As they reached the field, Leo's eyes widened with excitement. The grass was tall in some places, and little flowers dotted the ground. Bruno sniffed the air and wagged his tail, clearly happy to be outside. Maria placed Leo on a soft blanket she had brought, letting him crawl and explore. Bruno immediately sat beside Leo, alert and watchful. Leo began to reach for the flowers, trying to pick them up. Bruno nudged his tiny hands gently, guiding him away from sharp stems and uneven patches of grass. Leo laughed at Bruno's nudges, thinking it was a fun game. Maria smiled, realizing that Bruno was teaching Leo about the world in his own quiet way. After a few minutes, a gentle breeze blew through the field. Maria noticed a group of birds flying low near the trees. Leo clapped his hands and pointed excitedly. Bruno's ears twitched and he barked softly, as if to warn the birds not to get too close to Leo. The birds flew away, and Bruno returned to his calm position beside the baby, keeping watch carefully. Maria decided it was time to sit on the blanket and let Leo explore more freely. She brought out a small ball and rolled it gently toward Leo. Bruno watched closely, making sure Leo could crawl safely without tipping over or bumping into anything. Leo giggled and tried to grab the ball, his tiny hands clumsily catching it. Bruno nudged it gently toward him again, helping him learn how to play safely. While Maria was watching, she noticed a small hole near a tree. Curious, Leo tried to crawl toward it. Bruno immediately moved in front of him, blocking the path. He gently nudged Leo back to the blanket, his eyes alert and focused. Maria realized that Bruno's protective instincts were very strong. Even in a wide open space, he made sure Leo stayed safe. After a while, Maria decided to have a small picnic. She brought sandwiches and fruit, placing them on the blanket. Leo reached for a piece of fruit and Bruno stayed beside him, making sure he did not grab anything unsafe. Maria laughed as she watched Leo enjoy the snack while Bruno patiently waited for his own treat. Later, a small dog ran across the field, barking playfully. Bruno stood up immediately, alert but calm. He walked slowly toward the dog, making sure it did not get too close to Leo. The other dog's owner quickly called it back, and Bruno returned to his position beside Leo, relaxed once more. Maria realized how smart and careful Bruno was. He was always aware of everything happening around them. As the afternoon turned into evening, Maria packed their things and prepared to go home. She lifted Leo into her arms and walked with Bruno beside them. Bruno walked calmly, occasionally glancing around to ensure there was no danger. Maria felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that no matter where they went, Bruno would protect her baby. When they returned home, Maria let Leo crawl around the living room while she prepared dinner. Bruno lay nearby, always watching, his eyes following every movement. Leo reached out for his toys, and Bruno gently nudged him when he moved too close to the furniture edges. Maria smiled, feeling grateful for the loyalty and care of her dog. As night fell, Maria tucked Leo into bed. Bruno lay on the floor beside the crib, his eyes slowly closing but still alert. Maria whispered softly, "You are the best guardian, Bruno." Bruno wagged his tail and rested his head near Leo's tiny feet. Maria felt a deep sense of love and safety. She knew that her baby and her loyal dog shared a bond that could never be broken. One late afternoon, the sky was painted in shades of orange and gold as the sun began to set. Maria was preparing dinner while Leo played on his blanket in the living room. Bruno lay nearby, alert but calm, keeping a careful watch over the baby. Everything seemed peaceful, but Maria had learned that even quiet moments could change quickly. Suddenly, a faint smell of smoke reached Maria's nose. She paused, unsure where it was coming from. Bruno's ears perked up immediately and he stood at once, his body tense. Leo noticed Bruno's sudden movement and laughed, thinking it was part of a game. Bruno, however, moved closer to the living room door, growling softly, letting Maria know that something was wrong. Maria ran to the window and saw smoke rising from the backyard. A small fire had started near the wooden shed. It was not large yet, but it could grow quickly if not controlled. Maria felt a rush of fear. She lifted Leo carefully and held him close while Bruno barked loudly, alerting her and anyone nearby. Bruno positioned himself between Leo and the door. He stayed close to the baby, making sure he was safe while Maria called the fire department. His eyes never left the smoke and his body remained tense, ready to act if needed. Maria realized how brave and intelligent Bruno was. He was not just a pet. He was a protector, ready to face danger to keep her child safe. While waiting for the fire department to arrive, Maria tried to calm herself and Leo. Bruno sat near her, occasionally nudging the baby to reassure him. The little boy clutched Bruno's fur, feeling comforted by the dog's presence. Maria felt a wave of gratitude. Bruno's alertness and courage had given her precious time to act and keep Leo out of harm's way. Soon, the firemen arrived and quickly controlled the fire. Maria watched as they sprayed water on the flames, making sure everything was safe. The shed was slightly damaged, but no one was hurt. Maria hugged Bruno tightly, tears in her eyes. "You saved him, Bruno," she whispered. Bruno wagged his tail gently, calm but proud, as if he knew his job had been done well. Leo clapped his tiny hands, laughing at the water spraying outside. He did not understand the danger that had been so close, but he felt safe because Bruno had stayed with him the entire time. Maria smiled at the sight, realizing how much trust her baby had in Bruno. The bond between them was strong, built on love and protection. After the firemen left, Maria cleaned up the living room and put Leo back on his blanket. Bruno lay beside him, still alert, his eyes scanning the room. Maria realized how much she relied on Bruno every day, not just for protection, but for the calm and confidence he brought to their home. That night, Maria prepared a small dinner for herself and quietly gave Bruno his favorite treat. She patted him on the head and whispered, "You are more than a dog. You are our hero." Bruno leaned into her hand, calm and gentle, but ready to act again if needed. As Maria tucked Leo into bed, Bruno lay on the floor beside the crib, keeping a careful watch. The moonlight shone through the window, casting soft shadows across the room. Maria felt a deep sense of peace. She knew that with Bruno by their side, Leo would always be safe and their home would remain a place full of love and care. Maria kissed both Bruno and Leo goodnight. She realized that some days could be unpredictable, but having a loyal dog like Bruno made every challenge easier. Bruno was not only protecting Leo physically but also teaching him the meaning of safety, trust and love in the most natural way. The next morning, sunlight filled the living room, casting a warm glow over the blanket where Leo played. Bruno lay nearby, his eyes half closed but alert. Maria watched them with a smile, feeling grateful for the strong bond between her baby and her loyal dog. After all they had faced together, she knew that Bruno had become more than a pet. He was family, a true guardian of her son. Maria prepared breakfast while Leo babbled happily, stacking his toys and laughing at Bruno's gentle nudges. Bruno nudged Leo back softly, reminding him not to tip over his tower of blocks. Maria chuckled at the scene. It amazed her how patient and careful Bruno was, always teaching Leo about balance and safety without needing words. After breakfast, Maria decided to let Leo explore the backyard under Bruno's supervision. She placed him on the soft grass and watched as he crawled toward a small flower patch. Bruno followed closely, his large body shielding Leo from any small dangers hidden in the grass. Leo giggled and tried to pick a flower, but Bruno nudged him gently, redirecting his tiny hands. Maria smiled, knowing that Bruno was teaching Leo about the world and keeping him safe at the same time. Later that day, Maria invited her sister and Max to visit again. The two babies played together under Bruno's watchful eyes. He walked slowly around the room, making sure that neither child crawled into dangerous areas. Maria noticed that both Leo and Max felt safe with Bruno nearby. When the little ones laughed or reached for each other, Bruno stayed calm, guiding them subtly with his gentle nudges. Maria realized that Bruno's care extended beyond just her own child. He was a true protector for anyone who needed safety. As the afternoon went on, Maria decided to take a short walk with Leo and Bruno to the nearby park. Leo was curious about everything he saw, the trees, the flowers, and the small birds fluttering nearby. Bruno stayed close, alert to every movement. When another dog approached, Bruno positioned himself between Leo and the stranger dog until their owner called it away. Leo laughed and clapped his hands, enjoying the park safely because of Bruno's calm and protective presence. By evening, Maria prepared dinner while Bruno lay near the blanket, keeping an eye on Leo as he played quietly. She watched her baby reach for a toy and then glance at Bruno before moving it. Leo already seemed to understand that Bruno was a friend and protector. Maria felt a deep sense of comfort and joy. She knew that Leo would grow up learning love, trust, and loyalty from his loyal companion. After dinner, Maria gave Bruno his favorite treat and patted his head gently. "You are our hero," she said softly. Bruno leaned into her hand, calm and proud. Leo crawled to Bruno, hugging him around the legs. Bruno lowered his head to meet the baby's embrace, his tail wagging slowly. Maria realized that the bond they shared was one that would last a lifetime. That night, Maria tucked Leo into his small bed. Bruno lay on the floor beside him, his eyes slowly closing but still alert. Maria kissed both of them and whispered, "You are my little heroes, Bruno and Leo." Bruno rested his head near Leo's tiny feet, a silent promise that he would always protect the boy. Maria felt a deep peace and happiness, knowing her son would grow up safe, loved, and guided by the loyalty and care of his brave friend. As the moon shone through the window, Maria sat quietly thinking about everything that had happened, the small dangers, the happy moments, and the strong bond between a baby and a dog. She realized that Bruno had not only protected Leo physically, but had also taught him the meaning of trust and love through his gentle presence. Years later, when Leo was old enough to run and explore on his own, Bruno was still by his side. They played together in the garden, laughed together, and shared moments of comfort and companionship. Maria often watched them, her heart full of pride and gratitude. She knew that their bond was unbreakable, built on love, loyalty, and protection that would last a lifetime.